Today we are going to start the revision of one of the most highest weighted chapter, that is the time of supply. So hey my dear students, welcome back to the channel Ayushi Pencil Classes. Today we are going to start the revision of time of supply. Now what is this? What is the meaning of the time of supply? It means what is the significance of this chapter. So this time of supply specifies the exact period in which the person becomes liable to pay GST to the government. So now let's start it. Students, for the examination purpose, I have divided this chapter into two parts. First of all, section number 12 and the section number 13. Now, in the section number 12, we will cover the time of supply of goods, and in the section number 13, we will cover the time of supply of services. Yes, we will cover both the parts in the same section. So let's start it. Now, let's start with the time of supply of goods. Students, in the case of time of supply, either it is of goods or either it is of services. There are 5 subsections. It means 5 subsections of section number 12 and 5 subsections of section number 13. Now, which are those subsections? Let's start it. So, students, in both the cases, the subsection will come. So, the very first subsection, that is subsection number 2. Section 12 or section 13, subsection number will be same in both the cases. That is our main advantage here. So, subsection number 2 is about the forward charge. Forward charge means we will discuss in this case that in the case when the supplier is liable to pay tax to the government. Subsection number 3, that is a reverse charge. In the case of reverse charge, recipient is liable to pay GST to the government, not the supplier. Subsection number 4, in that case we will cover about the time of supply in the case of vouchers or DAT coupons. In the subsection number 5, residual cases will be covered, and in the subsection number 6, if any additional payment is done by way of interest or penalty, but due to the delay in payment of consideration, so that shall be covered. Now let's start with the section 12 subsection number 2, that is the supply of goods where supplier is liable to pay tax to the government. In this particular part, we are going to cover the section number 12 subsection number 2. Now students, ma'am, from where we can download the notes? So students, you can download the notes from my app Ayushi Pencil Classes. In that there is a free content section. You can download it from here. Okay, and yes, the link is in the description below. And if you are liking the classes, so please like it, share it, comment on it, and yes, do not forget to subscribe my channel. Now, students, in the case of subsection number 2, they said that earlier of the following dates shall be the time of supply of goods in case of forward charge. Now, what are those two dates? So, that is what memory technique we have covered for this point. Just recall it. I or P, whichever is earlier. I or P, whichever is earlier, means date of invoice or date of payment, whichever is earlier. Yes, I know there is a notification. I will tell you about that. But first of all, let's start with the section number. So, I or P, whichever is earlier, means that is date of invoice or date of payment. Now, what do you mean by the date of invoice? So, date of invoice means date of issue of invoice by the supplier. It means the date on which the supplier has issued the invoice, or the second date that as per section 31, the last date on which the invoice ought to have been issued by the supplier. Okay, so whichever is earlier. It means in the case of even I, we have to watch upon the two dates. Okay, next, in the case of P, that is the date of payment, there shall again be two cases. The first of all is the date of, as this is the subsection number 2. So I have told you, in the case of forward charge, we have to see the perspective of the supplier. So supplier will receive the payment. Yes, okay, great. So the date of receipt of payment by the supplier. And the second case is, students, in the case of P, that is a payment, we will cover about the date in which the supplier have recorded this payment in the books of the accounts of in their books of accounts. So whichever is earlier. First of all, in the case of P, the date on which payment is actually received, that is payment is credited to the entity's bank account, and the second case is date on which the payment is recorded in the books of accounts. That is if it is a case of accrual system. Okay, so whichever is earlier. Now students, in this part, in both the parts, we have to cover only that supply to the extent, if it is a case of invoice, to the extent the invoice covers the supply of goods, and if it is a case of payment, so to the extent the payment covers the supply of goods. The additional part will not be covered here. Now, so as per section 12 subsection number 2, I or P, whichever is earlier, but there is a notification about this point. That is which notification number? I told you notification number here is very important. That is notification number 66 by 2017, which said bye bye Tata to the P, that is payment. So it said that now as per notification number 66 by 2017, central tax dated 15th November 2017, the time of supply of goods shall be the date of invoice. That is the date on which invoice actually have been issued, or the last date on which invoice ought to have been issued by the supplier as per section 31. But if in examination this point comes, so what you have to write it down, first of all you have to explain about the section number 12, subsection number 12, yes, that is I or P, whichever is earlier. Then you have to told that, but now there is a notification that as per notification number 66 by 2017, now there is only a point of I. Okay, great students. Now, so this is the section number 12, subsection number 2. I hope you all have covered it very well. Now the next point is that, ma'am, which are those dates that is as per section 31? So what section 31 said that, which is the last date till which the invoice should have been issued. So students, there are some cases in the section number 31. As per section 31, subsection 1, it is about the simple case. Now in this point, 2 points will be covered. First of all, where the supply will involve movement of goods. It means the person has to supply the goods to any other place. In the second case, when there is no movement of goods, okay, it means supply will be at the same point, that is like a shop and a showroom. Okay, in the first case, the invoice should be issued before or at the time of removal of goods. Obviously, if you are supplying some goods to any other person, so what should be the last date on which you should issue the invoice? So that is before or at the time of removal of goods. But if there is no movement of goods, so at the time of delivery of goods or making goods available to the recipient. Okay, yes. As now section 31 subsection 4, it is important to remember the section number 31, but if you forget about the subsection number, so it will be okay. Okay, but it is very important to learn the section number 31. Okay. Now, but in the case of continuous supply of goods, like in the case the person said, okay, after every 10 days, please send me 100 kg raw materials and I have to take the total 1000 kg raw material from you. So in that type of cases, the invoice should be issued either before or at the time of, first of all, issuance of periodical statement, when the person is issuing the statements, or second is when they are receiving the periodical payment. Now, the important word here is periodical statement and periodical payment. It means when that part, suppose 10 kg has been sent. So the invoice should be issued for the 10 kg before issuance of statement for that 10 kg, or before receipt of payment for that 10 kg. Okay, great. Now student, the next case is in case of goods sent or taken on approval for sale or return basis. It means if the customers will like the goods, we will supply them, but if customers will not like the goods, we will give it back to you manufacturer. Okay, so now in these cases student, first case is invoice should be issued either before or at the time of supply. Now what do you mean by the time of supply here? So here time of supply means, suppose Mr. Wholesaler, let's understand it with the help of an example. Suppose there is a manufacturer, wholesaler and customer. So students, here the time of supply means when wholesaler actually supplies those goods to the customer. Okay, that is the time of supply. Second is, now they are saying from the date of removal, that is from the date on which the manufacturer sent goods to the wholesaler. So from within the 6 months from that date, whichever is earlier. Okay, yeah, great. But it will be in the case when there is a chance of goods returned back to the manufacturer. Okay, next is the case of section 12 subsection number 3. Yes, this was the only section number 12 subsection number 2. It have been over now. So in the case of section 12 subsection 3, we are going to cover about the reverse charge. First of all students, reverse charge means where the recipient is liable to pay tax to the government. It means, just look on this. What will happen in the case of reverse charges, as we have covered in the RCM point also, receiver will makes a payment to the supplier, but that payment will be without GST because he or she himself will deposit the GST with the government. Okay, because it is a case of the RCM, that is recipient will be liable to pay GST to the government. Now in these cases, in the case of subsection number 3, there will be 3 points. Yes. So it will be a kind of a memory technique. In the case of subsection number 3, there will be 3 points. That is earlier of the following dates. First of all, you have to keep it in your mind that it is a case of reverse charge mechanism. So we will see the perspective, we will watch the perspective of the recipient. Okay, so it means the first date on which goods are received. Second, when recipient makes the payment, it means date on which payment is recorded in books of accounts, or the date on which same is debited. Now as the person is making the payment, so it will be debited from the bank account, whichever is earlier. Next date is third date, which is very important, and that is, please listen it very carefully. That date is, students, the date which is immediately following 30 days from the date of issue of invoice, or if there is other document in the lieu of invoice, so that invoice by the supplier. So earlier of the following dates shall be the time of supply in the case of reverse charge mechanism. Okay, but if it is not possible to determine the time of supply by using these above three parameters, so what will happen in the case of RCM only? So the date of entry of goods in the books of accounts of the recipient of the supply shall be considered as time of supply. It means when recipient enter in his books of account that yes, I have received the goods. Okay. Now student, I have given some illustrations also for your practice. You can do that. In case of any query, you can ask me in the comment section. Next case is about the time of supply in case of vouchers. That is subsection number 4. Now student, we have two kind of vouchers. First of all, the redeemable vouchers. Redeemable vouchers are of the both kind. Yes, we can redeem the vouchers. That's why the vouchers have been given to the customers. We have two kind of vouchers. The first of all, we have a kind of voucher like the identifiable voucher. Identifiable voucher, what do you mean by the identifiable voucher? Identifiable voucher means that when the supplier is issuing the voucher, they know that customer will come to us and they will purchase the particular product only. For example, let's suppose XYZ pizza company issues a voucher and they said that you can buy a 100 rupee pizza from this voucher. It means you can take a 100 rupee pizza against this voucher. So it means that pizza company knows that customer will come to us and he or she will purchase only pizza. It means the GST rate is identifiable. So that is a case of identifiable vouchers. Second case is about the non-identifiable voucher. Now students, in the case of non-identifiable voucher, suppose XYZ mall issues a voucher to the customer. That customer can come to them and purchase can do any shopping of ₹100. It means from that ₹100 they can buy chocolate, they can take chocolates, they can take wallet, they can take ice cream, they can take anything. So it means that is a non-identifiable at the time of issuing that voucher. So in the case of identifiable voucher, date of issue shall the time of supply shall be the time of issue of voucher, because at that rate GST rate is identifiable. But in the case of non-identifiable voucher, when the person redeemed that voucher, that is date of redemption of the voucher shall be the time of supply. The logic is because at that time only the supplier will get to know the GST rate. Okay. Next is section 12 subsection number 5, that is the residual cases. Okay. So in the case of residual cases, if the person is required to file the periodical return, so due date for filing of the periodical return, now please listen it very carefully. That is a due date, not the actual date. That is a due date as per the GST law. But if it is any other case, so the actual date on which the GST payment has been made. Okay, great. Next is section 12 subsection number 6, that is if there is any kind of additional value have been received, for example in the case of interest, as the interest, late fee, etc., but that must be made only and only for the delayed payment of consideration. If it is had done for any other reason, so subsection 6 will not be applicable there. Okay, subsection 6 will be applicable only in the case if the interest or late fee or penalty or any kind of additional payment have been made due to delay in payment of consideration. In that case, student, time of supply shall be the actual time period, the actual date on which that additional amount has been received by the supplier. So I hope this time of supply of goods have been covered very well in this class. So if you like the section number 12, if you like my way of teaching, so please students, just press the like button now, comment on the video, share it with your friend and subscribe my channel. And yes, if you want to join the classes of CA CMA intermediate, either in the English language, in the total English language, or even in the Hindi and mixture of Hindi and English language. So batches have been started. Please join it. Okay, yes. Next is section number 13. So now students, in the case of section number 13, we will cover the section, we will cover about the time of supply of services. The 5 subsection numbers are same here also. That is, in subsection number 2, we will cover the forward charge. In subsection 3, we will cover the reverse charge. In subsection number 4, we will cover about the vouchers. On subsection number 5, we will cover the residual cases, and subsection 6 will be for the additional payment due to delay in payment of consideration. So these subsections are like icing on the cake, because it becomes very easy to remember the section number also, as it is same in both the cases. Now let's start with the subsection number 2, section 13 subsection 2. Now in the case of section 13 subsection 2, there shall be 2 cases. The first case where the supplier, the first case shall be where the invoice have been issued on time, and the second case shall be where the invoice have not been issued on the time. So students, if the invoice have been issued on time, so the time of supply shall be the date of invoice or the receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. Is any notification number 66 by 2017 CT dated 15th November 2017 comes here also? No student. It is applicable only in the case of goods. So it is not applicable in the case of services. So in the case of service, if invoice issued on time, that is as per section 31. So I or P, whichever is earlier. I means the same that we have covered in the date of invoice, and P is also the same here. But if invoice have not been issued on time, that is as per section 31. So in that case, it becomes P or P, whichever is earlier. Here P means date of providing service, and next P is date of payment, whichever is earlier. Again the same thing, it is that here student we have to take the earlier point. Okay, but ma'am, if the above 2 methods are not applicable, so what will happen? So student, in that case, time of supply will be the date on which the recipient shows that I have received the services in his books of accounts, in his or her books of accounts. Okay, yes. Next, the meaning of invoice and payment is same here, so no confusion in that point. Yes, the extent point is also same here, that is to the extent the person supply the goods, as we have covered in the case of goods, to the extent the person supplies the goods, so to the extent the person supplies the services. Now next is, ma'am, what is the time limit for issuance of issuance of invoice here? Okay, let's cover. It means which point of time, what provisions of section 31 will decide that we have to apply method A, I or P, or we have to apply method B, that is P or P, whichever is earlier. Now let's understand about it. So as per section 31, subsection number 2, students, the tax invoice needs to be issued either before providing the service or within 30 days from providing the service. But if it is the case of, it means the supplier is any kind of insurance company, banking company, or financial institution. So in that case, it is either before providing the service or within 45 days. It means additional 15 days have been given to the these categories. Okay, great. Now in the next case we have to cover, but if it is a case, students, in case of insurance company, banking companies, financial institutions, including the NBFCs, and now we are going to cover two additional points also, that is telecom company, and if it is any kind of notified supplier. So if these categories are making supplies to their distinct person, we have covered the distinct person in the chapter registration also, and even in the case of supply under GST. Yes, so students, yes, in the regular class. So in the case of if these supplies are making under the distinct person category, so they said that now the time of issuance of invoice change. You have to issue the invoice before or at the time of recording such supply in the books of accounts, and the second is very important here, before the expiry of the quarter in which the supply was made. It means, for example, student, if you have made the supply in the month of July, so it will be fall in which quarter? The quarter will be started from the April, that is April, May, June, July, August, September, that is July, August, September. So what shall be the last day of this quarter? 30th September. So you have to issue the invoice before the 30th September, okay, or at the time when you are recording such supply in the books of account, whichever is earlier. Clear? Great, students. Now in the next case, if it is a case of cessation of supply of service, it means the supply have been ceased in middle of the providing the service. So before completion of that supply, the person have to issue the invoice. Again, ma'am, to which extent? To the extent they have made the supply of services. Okay, yeah. Some other practice questions have been given in this PDF file, so you will take care of it also. Next point here is, students, they have provided an option to the supplier. Yes, there is an additional option given to the supplier that if any excess payment is received, any additional payment is received by supplier, but that payment is up to ₹1,000 only. So the supplier have an option to take the time of supply as the invoice date. Yes, it means when they will issue the invoice for this additional amount, they can take the they can pay the GST on that particular up to ₹1,000 at that time. Okay, yeah. The next case is section 13 subsection number 3, that is the case of reverse charge. Now students, in the case of reverse charge, in this point there shall be 2 points, that is date of payment. It means as it is a recipient, so when the person is making the payment or debiting the books of accounts, it means debiting the bank account or making the entry in his books of accounts, whichever is earlier. Next is date, which is immediately following 60 days from issue of invoice. Now student, in the case of goods, we have covered date immediately following 30 days. But in the case of services, it has been doubled, 60 days. That is why there are only 2 points. Okay, you can take it as a memory technique also. Now students, in the next part, that is in the case of RCM only. If there is an import of services and that is between the associated enterprises. So in that case, import of services mean that the recipient is receiving the services from outside India, and the supplier which is holding in the outside India is an associated enterprise of the recipient. So in that case, time of supply will be the date of payment for the service or the date of entry of the service in the books of accounts of the recipient. It means first when the recipient is making the payment or making the entry of the payment. Second, when the recipient is making the entry of the service in the books of the accounts, whichever is earlier. Yes, we have covered so many questions on these kind of points. Okay, yeah. Those who have not covered the questions yet, so do not worry, just do a simple thing, revise this chapter with me in these revision sessions, and just open your study material and do the questions from there. It will be more than enough. Okay, yeah. Now the case is subsection 4. Students, in the case of subsection 4, that is in the case of voucher, the provision is as same as of section number 12. That is, if it is a case of identifiable voucher, so time of supply shall be the date of issue of voucher. If it is a case of non-identifiable voucher, so time of supply shall be the date of redemption of voucher. Yes, it is as same. Now the cases of section number 13, subsection number 5, that is of residual cases. So this provision is also same, that if the person is required to file the periodical return, so due date on which periodical return is required to be filed, and in any other case the actual date on which GST is paid. Now section number 13 subsection 6 is also same, but yes, revise it with me. That is, in the case students, if the person if the person is receiving some payment in the case of enhancement of value on account of interest, late fee, penalty, etc., but that is the reason is due to delay in payment of consideration. So as per subsection 6 of section 13, the time of supply shall be the actual date on which the payment has been received by the supplier. So I hope students, now the session is over here. I hope you have revised the complete chapter time of supply with me. If you like the session, so please like it and tell me in the comment section that what more improvements we can done in our classes. And if you are actually liking the classes, so please share it with your friends also. Thank you. Have a nice day and meet me in the next session.